Hello and welcome to Look for the Light, a podcast where we dive into the world of The Last of Us. I'm your host, Stuart Traynor, and I'm joined, as always, by someone who wouldn't need a map to find a Ferris wheel or the moral high ground in this whole scenario. It's Jess Sterling. Jess, how are you doing?
I feel like I should be insulted by that intro because at first I was like, I need maps. I'm terrible with navigation, but I would go on a Ferris wheel. Big fan of Ferris wheels. I probably do always take the moral high ground. It's probably accurate. I'm excited to talk about the finale, season 2, episode 7. It's gonna be a doozy because
Yeah,
we're recording the morning after, folks, and some people got some spicy takes on this finale, and I feel
very.
like we're probably going to be pretty close to aligned on how we feel about the finale.
I think so. I think the word you're looking for, Jess, is correct.
And that's what you come
No.
to this podcast for, people.
Yeah, to be preached to about how good or bad something certainly is. No.
Yeah.
It's no, to give credence to a lot of people's criticisms. Obviously we're coming at this as game players. We've played both part 1, part 2, and we've been digesting this for week on week. I mean, we've gone through a whole period of binging the first season, podcasting about it, talking about it in depth, and then running through this episode by episode. So I feel like we are deep within the tall grass here. Like we are lost to, like, we're within the story. And so I think perhaps we're maybe looking at a slightly different lens than I would say a generic audience member who would be.
Yeah.
But I think that also lends itself to a good insight because perhaps we're picking up on a few things that are being missed here and there. That's not to say that people aren't attentive when watching, but just more so that it's hard to miss these things when you are. This
Yeah.
has been our lives for like the last 7 weeks. Like,
What
it's
Stuart
been
is
non-stop.
saying is this is not your mother's Last of Us podcast. We are big fans and can't help but notice things. And I also feel like, I don't know though. I feel like on one hand, you could say the people who've played the game are harsher critics because they're holding it to a certain standard. And so it's like, it must meet this standard. And then maybe
Mhm.
there's also the part of us that's like a little bit more forgiving of certain things because we love it so much. Like we love the story so much. So I guess it cuts both ways, but I'm really excited to talk about the finale and yeah, the long wait we're gonna have between seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's a long wait it will be. But of course, if you're new here, firstly, wild that you join us just for this finale, but welcome nonetheless. Please do subscribe if you aren't already. Obviously, there may not be further episodes to come, but when season 3 comes about, you best believe that we're going to reappear in your podcatchers. So make sure that you are subscribed for that. And also, kind of like, if you wish to send in any kind of feedback or get in touch with us, look for lightpodcast at gmail.com is the way to reach us. But the thing we have to warn you about is spoilers, because this is a big deal, because we're going to be talking about this with the context of spoilers at the end of the episode. This episode is just going to cover what's happened this week and that alone, but at the end we're going to flag the spoilers and then jump into them from that way, so you don't need to worry either. So Jess, unless there's anything else, you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
I know. Have some, okay?
No.
It's gonna help. Have some.
I said no.
We open with Jesse and Dina back at the theater, trying to deal with a pretty severe situation. Dina's taken an arrow to the knee in true Skyrim fashion, and it is not good. Jesse's trying to help. Dina's quite rightly agitated and a little bit kind of crazy in terms of like, no, I don't trust you. And Jesse's like, calm the F down. I've got this. And they kind of push through. And we get a bit of a revelation here. What was your thoughts on this scene, Jess? Because this was intense.
Yeah, this was great. Dina refuses a drink to kind of calm her nerves. She also says the phrase, I can't die yet. So like I really enjoy the breadcrumbs here because Jesse is so smart And I feel like it'd be doing him a little bit of a disservice to not have him kind of realize, especially with something as overt as not wanting to drink, when the character of Dina, as Jesse will rightly point out later, is a pretty big drinker, right? Like, she loves a bev. So for her to
social
refuse
menace,
one,
as my friend calls them.
so true. So the problem is, right, when she refuses one, it looks super suspicious. Yeah, I really liked this because I liked getting a scene with just Dina and Jesse, because it's really rare that we get a scene with just the two of them. Again, certainly couldn't have happened in the video game because we're not playing either one of those characters. But I really liked the scene because you can kind of see maybe shades of what their relationship was like. Obviously, this is a very fraught, intense situation, but I do feel like they don't feel like they would work as a couple. Dina is like so just like spicy, fun loving, like energetic, and a little bit chaotic. And Jesse is much more by the book, straightforward. Like, he's like lawful neutral, you know? if you were playing D&D, he's a freaking paladin. Like, so they don't quite fit together. And I think it's made even more obvious in this scene that they don't quite match up anymore.
The breadcrumbs of like the reveal, and like you see the cogs kind of wearing behind Jesse's eyes and kind of like coming to that realization is really kind of good. But I do like just the we're finally seeing some stakes here of the danger that they're in, because I think in any other kind of situation of like a typical tropey action film, it'd be like, okay, snap the arrow, pull it out, run away, and like you're fine. This is serious. Like, for one thing, Dina is pregnant, so it adds like this whole extra factor to the kind of mix. But like, just an arrow to the knee. I mean, infection. Like, how? Like, what if an artery was hit? How are you going to stop that? Like, how are you going to deal with that? These things aren't just kind of, oh, we're just going to go to like the hospital and get it fixed. You can't. There's no support for this stuff. So an arrow could completely kill you. And I think that the way in which, as Spelman said, played that fear of not only for her own life but for the life of a number one child is so apparent and so there as well. A great way to really up the stakes of this episode, because I felt like the arrow to the knee was like shock, which makes sense because I mean, like, shock is a thing and it can make people overcome pain, and kind of like adrenaline kind of rushes through you and you like can run away and things like that. But it's nice to get this kind of like regrounding of just like, oh no, really stuff is dialed up and we have to really kind of pay attention to the risk at play here, which explains why Jesse is the way Jesse is, because Jesse is the only one with the wisdom to be able to say to them, look, okay, you can't just run in on emotion and adrenaline all the time. Like, you've got to think about this smartly. And quite rightly is frustrated as hell because of it.
Yeah. Honestly, Jesse's reaction to everything this episode, I was like, he's really justified. Like, as much as he does tend to like take the moral high ground and get on his high horse a little bit, you can't really argue with his logic for most of this episode. And yeah, while all of this is happening, we hear over the radio that they are not really listening to at the moment, like instructions for the WLF that Isaac has ordered, radio silence, no one says anything. It seems like maybe they've caught on that someone is listening to them. And I loved that little nugget, that like blink and you miss it sort of a little factoid that they drop in there. I thought was really smart, because it's like, if the WLF know they're listening, well, not only can they not say anything, so you really don't know much about what's going on, they can also say false things and possibly send you down the wrong path. So I love that little moment.
Yeah, great touch to set up some stuff that seems to get laid out in later in this episode.
Joel found out. And he killed everyone in the hospital. Everyone. He killed Abby's father. He was a doctor, and Joel shot him in the head to save me. So that's why they came.
We then get to Ellie coming back to the theatre, understandably shaken up by everything that's happened with Nora. Jesse being quite right in the way in which you're meant to approach these things of like asking kind of prudent questions, certainly showing that kind of wisdom of being a protector of Jackson and knowing the protocols and procedures that they go through to ensure that people return and aren't carrying stragglers that are perhaps strong arming them into allowing access and things like that. But Ellie blitzes past him and goes straight for Dina, which was harsh but understandable, I guess.
I think this is this moment is when Jesse is like, whoa, okay, there's way more going on between these two.
Mhm.
The amount of like fear Ellie has about whether or not Dina is okay.
Yeah.
I think it makes it abundantly clear exactly what's going on to Jesse. Again, he's a smart guy. Like he's gonna pick up on these things. And yeah, Ellie walks in. Dina's kind of like resting. She's looking over Dina's wound. And then Dina notices like Ellie's back has some like blood seeping through onto her shirt. So she's helping her kind of clean up. And it's like covered in what look like scratches to me. Now, I know in the video game, I would say Ellie doesn't look as bad as she does in the video game in this scene. Like her back is like bruised and like beaten and just like raw. Like it looks really awful. It doesn't look as bad here. But I'm trying to remember, Stuart, because we don't really see this happen to Ellie. It's more just like we know because she's had to fight through a bunch of stuff that like that's how she ended up so injured.
You mean in the game or the show?
Yeah, I'm so sorry, in the game, but I guess also in the show.
Yeah, like in the game, like you experience a lot of the whole being beaten up. Like you encounter so many more enemies than what Ellie has in the TV show because that's just the nature of a video game. And understandably, occasionally they get hits into you, and you like kind of shake them
Yeah.
off in true video game fashion, like as if like a bat to the gut doesn't completely kind of like take you out with in the realism of show. So it's hard to really kind of like communicate that, but you're also going through scenes where you're like diving down onto the ground, you're crawling through mud, like, and it's a
Yeah.
really nice touch of the video game is where like your elbows and like your forearms really kind of get like scuffed up and they get muddy, and all of that transfers to your character. Like you really feel the effect of everything you've done, and we haven't really had that with TV Ellie because they haven't encountered that many people, and when they have, they've been quite smart about it. I think the most danger that they've really had has been in the subway and
Yeah.
fleeing from the TV station, and even then, not too much of that explains much of the back injuries here. And I will say that this for me was a miss in terms of like how this came about because there's no. It's just like it's almost as if all the strife, all of the kind of things has just happened to Ellie's back. And I'm like,
I was wondering
where are
that
we seeing it
too.
elsewhere? Like not
her
hair
face
is
looks
out
too
of
good.
place. Yeah, exactly.
Her face looks a little too good. I was originally when this scene started, it's a big scene in the game, and it feels like this is almost one of these moments for Ellie, right? That like changes her just going forward. And so there's a lot weighing on this particular scene to get it right. And so at first I was like, she doesn't seem beat up enough for me. But I will say, I didn't really care once we got into the conversation between Ellie and Dina, where Dina's asking what happened. And Ellie just looks at Bella Ramsey. I could spend the entirety of this podcast talking about how incredible Bella Ramsey is at playing Ellie. Like the amount of tiny changes they can make to their facial expression to like just shift it ever so slightly for Ellie is incredible. She looks detached. She looks numb. Like she can't even believe what just happened. And honestly, I feel like one of the only reasons Ellie opens up here is like, well, Ellie's not facing Dina. It's a little bit easier to like then start saying things, right? Like making eye contact with someone while you're admitting something is already very difficult. But also part of it feels just like she has to process what she just went through. And the only way she can do that is by telling someone. Like Dina is now her person. Joel is gone. Dina is her person. So she needs to tell someone, I beat her. Like I
Mhm.
I beat Nora. It's awful, Stuart. It's so awful.
It really is, and this is why it's such a profound scene in the game, because it's like the clothing comes off, and it's almost like this mask is revealed. And although Ellie has her back to Dina, and like they're tending to like kind of the wounds and everything, Dina sees the truth, sees how much Ellie is broken, and like physically, which kind of also kind of like is a way of showing like kind of the mental anguish that's going on here, sees that for what it is. And there doesn't have to be this confrontation to get that understanding. It's kind of just an observance. But the way in which, yeah, like you say, Bella just manages to play these like micro emotions that are macro on the inside is just phenomenal. And what I really like about this is that in the game, Ellie's horrified about what she's done, whereas with the TV Ellie, yeah, there is an aspect of that, but it's more so of how easy it was. Like there's just that kind of like slight additions and changes to the wording of just making it so that like it just came so easily to her. But what which is kind of horrifying, because that's the thing that she's been admonishing Joel for this entire time, is that like how could you do what you've done? And she's doing similar things so easily, but unlike Joel, she can't compartmentalize it. She can't hide that emotion away and just, okay, that's done, we have to
Mhm.
move on. She dwells on it, and it's really affecting her. And to get that, which forces the admission of knowledge of what Joel had done and telling Dina about it, which then goes to drive that wedge that we've been wanting this entire season between Ellie and Dina. Because in the game, there's a bit more of a kind of a languishing on Dina for being a burden in this whole situation, for being pregnant and hiding that. And we get almost like a complete reversal of it, where Ellie's the one to divulge the information, and that's what drives the wedge between them. I thought this was a phenomenal choice. And again, another testament to why I am still of the opinion, let the creators cook. Let's see what they dish up without quibbling over what their cooking method is, because this for me hit so much harder, and I loved it.
Yeah, Ellie finally confessing to Dina that I know what Joel did. I know why they were hunting him. I didn't know who they were at the onset. I learned later. But having Ellie have all of this knowledge, you know, without telling Dina, when Dina is both risking her life and her unborn baby's life on
Mhm.
this trip, obviously it really colors who Joel is. And Dina had a right to know who they were fighting. And I think it is something that is like so hard to reckon with, especially because Joel's dead. Because when someone dies, you want to remember the good things. Like you really want to like put on some rose-colored glasses and be like, I miss this person, so I'm only going to think about the good times and how wonderful they were. But people are complex, and finding out that Joel did all of this and he's the reason why the people from Salt Lake and the WLF showed up, that's tough. And it's not like Dina holds it necessarily against Ellie, but it's also something she has to process. Like, I came on this trip with you. I'm putting my life at risk. My leg just got shot with an arrow. Jesse and Tommy followed us out here, putting their lives in danger, right? Like, there's like a
Mhm.
lot she has to work through. Um, and Dina just says, "We need to go home." And like
Yeah.
turns over and seems to go to sleep. Um it is really hard to watch. I thought I was really happy to see finally, and I don't I'm not trying to say like I want to see Ellie and Dina fight. more so like I was happy to finally see some sort of strife between them
Mhm.
because I don't care if you're the perfect couple in the world. When you are in highly stressful situations, you're going to have some sort of an argument at some point. Like, that's just the nature of what is happening, especially if one of you is pregnant and, like, there's a lot going on. And so I really appreciated finally getting some distance put between Ellie and Dina. Now, I guess your mileage may vary on like, well, they made up very quickly. It's like the following morning. I mean, made up in quotes, right? Like,
Well, yeah.
with Dina giving the bracelet and everything. But it certainly didn't feel like a large fight, but it was something. And I liked it. Made sense that Ellie would tell Dina this at this point, right? Like, Dina's gotten shot for her. Like, it's time to fess up about what you know, Ellie.
Yeah, it really is. Craig Mason in the official pod talks about that and says that they don't quite make up. It's kind of like we'll have this conversation later, and it's like it's
Yes.
more stern. It's a very kind of like when you're in a long-term relationship, like you know that the shit's about to hit the fan when that is said, because it's like, okay, this is too serious for now, but it's serious enough that we're gonna bring it up later.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on the couch for a while, and so like,
Yeah.
but it's kind of great because it's like it shows a maturity to the relationship as well as not being these kind of like star-crossed like kids that are just like falling in love. Dina's like, no, we can deal with this later, but for now, I still love and care for you, and I'm gonna give you this little charm as a way of like doing what I can to feel like I'm protecting you in some way.
Mhm.
And Eddie tries to kind of poo-poo it a bit, and he's just like, "Well, I'm still alive." Like it's nice, and that's again like a really gentle nod to the video games because Dina has a little bit more of like a spirituality than Ellie does,
Mhm.
and it's yeah, just little nice little touch there, which I thought
I
was
do kind of
quite
miss
excellent.
if I'm gonna say something I do miss from the video games, I do miss Adina's Judaism and her
Hmm.
beliefs from the video games because I feel like when the only and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not remembering everything, but like seemingly the only aspect of religion that we are seeing are the Seraphites, which are so extreme, right? I think it's possible that people would still have some sort of belief system, especially
Hmm.
when times are tough. A lot of people turn to religion. So I do kind of miss having a more measured approach to religion in Dina. But I understand if we're making cuts, it's easy enough to
Yeah,
cut it. But I
it,
do like that aspect of her from the video game.
yeah, it was a good palate cleanser in the game because obviously in the previous season, the previous game, we encounter the cannibals and we encounter David and that whole situation. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, that's a very kind of bleak viewpoint of someone who's religious. Like, it doesn't really paint religion in a good light, having that character be that one representation of it. So it was a good palate cleanser and also a necessary one before setting up the Seraphite. So yeah, I kind of agree that that's an element that's been lost. And so
Mhm.
it's nice to have, I guess, a touch of a nod towards it in that beliefs, even if they are kind of just in charms or in just good luck elements, they're not entirely culty and they're not entirely kind of bad.
Yeah.
Like they can be
Yeah.
relied upon in that sense.
Thank you. I mean it, honestly. Look, I know you're angry.
Last night, Dina said, I can't die. Not, I don't want to die. I can't. And then I offered her whiskey and she refused. Dina, the girl who's never turned down a free drink in her life, seconds before I was going to push a crossbow bolt through her leg.
That's weird. I don't know why
Yes,
she...
you do. I'm not stupid and I'm not blind. Ellie, I see the way you two look at each other. It's different now. Yeah, and I bet she even tells you things she wouldn't tell me. Like how she's pregnant.
We then get Ellie and Jesse departing, making their way through the streets. This looks phenomenal. I mean, I can't gush more about the sets and the environments that they built, but everything here looks like, of course, embellished with like CG at the distance, but like practically, and the up close stuff is just all real plants and effects and like props and things, and it looked phenomenal. But Ellie and Jesse, they get into it. Jesse reads Ellie the riot act on a few issues. Most of all, for me, most importantly, didn't even ask how Shimmer was, which was outrageous. But great to hear that Shimmer's doing okay, right?
Yeah, Shimmer's good, by the way. I I love Jesse. I don't think I've made any qualms about just I love him so much. And he'll give Ellie shit right back to her because how did you find are you gonna tell me how you found the theater? It's like he the way I read it is he's very it's kind of interesting. He's almost militant in a way in that he respects authority like the military, right? Like in his mind there is a rank, there is an order, there's a hierarchy, and you should follow that hierarchy. It's how people stay safe in this world. And Ellie is someone who is never, she can't. She hates authority figures. She's always seemed to have a problem with them. Like she's just not someone who follows that sort of structure. And so, of course, they're going to have disagreements and get into it at times. And she wants to know how he found the theater. He talks about, like, well, it took 2 days and a lot of close calls. And, like, me and Tommy both came out here to get you guys. And I also really love how they gave Jesse the smarts to realize Dina's pregnant. Because in the game, Ellie is the one who tells him. And I like this so much more that Jesse knows because we all are aware when someone's not drinking on a television show, they're pregnant. When someone throws up, they're pregnant. Like, so it's great that Jesse is able to like identify this and then kind of trick Ellie. Because again, Stuart, we've talked a lot about Ellie is very intelligent in very certain aspects, but she can get tricked, like she's not immune to this sort of thing. And so Jesse being like, oh yeah, it's obvious that she told you that she's pregnant. And Ellie's just like, fuck. And he's like, I knew it. Like, gotcha. So I was really happy with this change that that Jesse was able to like pick up the clues that, yeah, Dina is definitely pregnant.
Yeah. And again, like you said, the anti-authoritarian going up against the authoritarian just makes so much sense. And Jesse's authoritarianism comes from that sense of like the community aspect that he gets into later, is that like he really has a respect for the system itself because it's done him, like it served him so well. Like they're the ones that took him in. He's thrived upon it. So of course he's going to be, well, this is a good thing. This is why it's stable and it's why it's serious, which is, I guess, makes sense. What is horrible about this, though, is that you see the impact of an authoritarian system when they have to take shelter from the rain and then take cover when they hear gunfire. And we see the WLF wrangling a lone Seraphite in the street, a young kid who they strip down to their underwear and then drag off to God knows where. And we get that conflict between Ellie and Jesse kind of just bubbling over, really, as Ellie's wanting to go and help them. And Jesse's like, no, like, think about it. Don't be a dumbass. This was a great way of illustrating like their strife and just fundamental difference of approach, right?
Yeah, especially because they're both right, like Ellie sees herself in that teen boy, right? That like teen boy Seraphite who's all by himself. She sees herself as him. And what would have happened if Joel didn't rescue her? She'd be dead. And while she has very conflicted feelings about all of that, it's still true that this boy needs help. And so then to have Jesse be like, that would be stupid because we would die. Like, yes, we would save his life, but then all 3 of us would die instead of just him, and we have a mission. We have something to do. We can't just die. There are a lot of other people who are relying on us. They're both right. And that's why I think in the video game, Jesse's still a great character. Don't get me wrong. he is nowhere near as built out as this version of Jesse. Like, he's not as ingrained in the community of Jackson as he is on the show. And I really love that change because it just highlights the stark differences between how Ellie and Jesse view the world and probably how their experiences have shaped them into these people. They're so different. They're night and day. And it's obviously going to cause even more conflict between them. So I really, really enjoyed this small scene because you're also including this war and how big it is and how little they know about it, while also being like, and also Jesse and Ellie are just like oil and water at times.
Yeah, it's so necessary for this arc that they go on throughout this episode, and to really kind of ground why. Because throughout the entire season, we've been talking about like, well, what does it take for someone to go rogue against their obligations to each other? Like we've talked about it with Tommy and the fact that he's got a kid. We've talked about Jesse and his obligation to the community. We've talked about it with Dina, for crying out loud, like and why she would be willing to go on this endeavor. And so it's absolutely necessary to show why, when everyone around Ellie who loves her is telling her to cut this out, why she is just so willing to go against the grain here in this situation, because they do just fundamentally disagree. Yeah, it's difficult to watch because I'm there just going, please, just listen, Ellie. Just do what you're told for just once, please. But yeah, I it's necessary to get to where we're going, and also to see Isaac's right hand man be the one to like catch the Seraphite and to be that guy. Gosh, I hope he plays a bigger role in season 3. Be it Lane turns up. Like I certainly hope we get to see his comeuppance at some point.
Certainly,
But
yeah.
yeah, certainly, like when he came on screen, I had a visceral reaction. I was like, oh, that little shit. I was like, because I thought that Ellie was going to go and do it. I thought that somehow, miraculously, they were going to somehow deal with this situation. So I feel like that's been kind of like cast out, and I took the bait, and they're just slowly going to reel me in over the next 2 years as I wait for season 3.
By the time the sun comes up tomorrow, there's a very good chance you'll be dead. There's an even better chance I'll be dead. So then what happens to that entire fucking army out there who, despite their badass name, are very much sheep? Who leads them? Who secures our future? It was supposed to be her.
Well, she's fucked off, Isaac. So maybe it wasn't.
We then get more as the WLF who have taken the Seraphite in. We then cut to the actual WLF themselves, and we get a really fascinating conversation between Park and Isaac, talking about their upcoming plans to what to do with the situation with the Seraphites and this ongoing conflict that's going on. A completely new scene that we've not had. It's fascinating to get this from 2 NPCs that aren't player characters, so you wouldn't ever get this scene in the game, and to get an understanding of not only the dynamics of the upper level management of the WLF, but an insight into Isaac's thinking as to why people have certain importances. Fascinating. I could have watched an hour of this. This was one of my favorite scenes of the entire episode.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely breadcrumbs that we kind of need, right? Like, we need to know where Abby falls in the WLF, like why Isaac is preoccupied with her, and it's because he viewed her as his successor, right? Like, I love the line of like they're, they have the WLF on their clothing and everything, but they're all sheep. Like, they're all just followers. They need someone to follow. Abby is that person. And I love Park being like, why are you so obsessed with her? Like, do you love her? I thought that was really funny and like a really
You wouldn't
good
be the
question.
first older guy to like have a crush on it. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it
Absolutely a
was
thing.
so perfect. But yeah, we find out that not only is Abby missing, but Owen, Mel, all of them are missing except for Manny. They still have Manny, she says.
We've got loads of Mannies.
So many Mannies. But yeah, it's really setting up like I think this is one of those scenes that I could argue maybe belongs in season 3 rather than season 2 because it feels like we don't have time for this right now. Like we're focused on the Ellie aspect. We don't need to know this information currently. I personally didn't mind it, but I could understand coming from a different place and being like, we didn't need this now because by the time season 3 rolls around, people won't remember, it's like we spent so many episodes away from Abby that now that we're bringing her back up, people are just like, wait, why? So as much as I did, and I will say, I appreciated that the person Isaac was talking to was Park because we already have seen her. We know her.
Yeah.
We at the very least understand where her priorities are, given she literally had to like lose her son in all of this. So I did like that aspect of it. I think that it's still confusing both as a person who's played the game and probably for people who haven't, like what exactly is going on between the WLF and the Seraphites and like how does it connect to this story? You know what I mean? Like that is a thing that I've seen some criticism about that I could understand more of. And to me it's like, well, it's world building, it's like setting the stakes and saying that yes, well, there's the danger of the infected and raiders and all those other things. There's also this war that you have no stakes in that you are now in the center of because you're in Seattle and that's where the war is. So like to me, that's what it represents, but I could understand why people are like, I don't know, do we need it?
Yeah, no, I certainly can get that. I guess for me, and again, this might be because I'm skewed because being like a player of the game and kind of wanting to, and knowing the arc that is being told here, I'm wanting stuff that perhaps plot wise is more at home in season 3. I like it being spread across season 2 because then it feels like the 2 seasons are a bit more kind of joined together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can certainly see how, and this is where I guess I lack in terms of like reviewing this from an unbiased perspective as a first time viewer, is that must be so jarring to be like, okay, we're jumping from here to here. Well, why is this plot relevant? But I thought it was completely necessary for reasons we'll get into in spoilers. I can't.
Yeah.
And this is where it's really conflicted because I think that there's arguments for the positive of it, but I think that they do inherently come with spoilers, annoyingly. To which anyone who's listening who doesn't want to listen to the spoilers would be like, he's just getting out of jail free with that one. You can just play that card. But no, I think that there is. I don't think it's an unreasonable take to have either opinion really on this. I think that whether you subscribe to it or not, I think it all depends on, I guess, your investment at this stage in Abby. And I'm really interested to see if people are invested in Abby and hold that candle that has been there since earlier in the season, and whether they've done enough early in the season to humanize Abby. What with that opening scene of like at the gravesite, because everything that happened in episode 2 was so jarring. I imagine many people are probably just going, I do not care about her. I don't want to care about her. To which all I will say is, imagine how we felt playing the game, like at the very first half. Like it was very much that vibe, and I think that's entirely intentional. So that's why I'm kind of more for it, I guess.
I voted no.
Why?
Because everything you do for you. Ellie.
Oh my god.
Ellie, it wasn't in the best interest of the community.
Fuck the community! All you do is talk about the fucking community, you hypocrite! You think you're good and I'm bad? You let a kid die today, Jesse, which is why he wasn't in your community. I'm gonna tell you about my community. My community was beaten to death in front of me while I was forced to fucking watch. So don't look at me like you're better than me, or like you'd do anything differently if you were in my shoes, because you're not, and you wouldn't.
We then get Ellie and Jesse once more, this time in a bookstore, settling down at the rendezvous point where they were meant to meet Tommy. Tommy is not there, and understandably, Jesse is concerned, but they have no choice other than to hunker down and hope that he returns, unless they get any kind of more information. And we get quite a revelation, not one that I think that either of us particularly saw coming. Jesse voted no. Wild.
Yeah, this is really wild. We like, Ellie, it's there's already so much tension between them for like many reasons, right? Like Ellie views Jesse as like this kind of preachy, moral high ground on his high horse kind of a guy, right? I think she also was like Saint something of Jackson. Like he just sees himself in a specific light. And she doesn't like that. That's not who she is. And so she doesn't like being like patronized, which is what she feels like he's doing to her. And sometimes he is. And I think that's like fair to say, but also Ellie doesn't understand who Jesse is and like why he feels the way he feels, right? Like Ellie goes and picks out a book for Dina's upcoming baby. She picks The Monster at the End of this book, which is like Chef's Kiss, an incredible book that I remember from my childhood. And they start talking, and Jesse talks about like, because he noticed the looks between Dina and Ellie. Like he knows there's something more going on. He says, I love Dina, not like you love her. Like he has like almost like a familial connection to her because they dated for so long. Their families were connected. I view their love as like this like family platonic love now.
Yeah.
And Jesse says there was a girl who came into town. It kind of is like a whirlwind romance. They fall in love immediately. He buys like 4 crappy paintings from her. And then when her and her group leave, she wants him to come with them. And he says he really wanted to. That was all he wanted. But he felt the pull of responsibility. He couldn't just leave because he's supposed to be Maria's successor. He is supposed to take over for her someday. People are relying on him, and he wants to give back what Jackson has given to him. And so he says, the way he says this too is so just like poking at Ellie. He says, I was taught to put other people first. And kind of rightly so, she interprets that as like, oh, I don't. And she doesn't always. I think he is so focused on the community of Jackson and everyone in it, not just 1 or 2 people. Ellie's community was Joel.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't view Jackson that way. It's not the safe haven for her that it is for Jesse. And he's a little bit just more like altruistic. He feels a sense of responsibility that Ellie doesn't really feel, because if it's her, she would have left with the girl. She wouldn't have stayed, you know?
I think it's fascinating that Jesse is on a high horse about caring for others when Ellie has had that lesson. Ellie was taught the same thing, but by Thedra. So she's seen how it can be absolutely just turned on a dime as to like how much of a hypocrisy that can be of just caring for just your own. Because what she found when she was illuminated, when she kind of met the Fireflies, is that it's complex and that it isn't just us versus them. She's seen how that can both be a unifying thing and also a destructive thing. Like she's seen the good aspects of like an us versus them with Bill and Frank. Like it's like F everyone else. Like you protect your own kind of thing. And so what Ellie has done is she's not joined a community, she's formed her own. And it's a community, like say of 2. It's just her and Joel against the world. And her community was destroyed when she was forced to see the other member of it beaten to death in front of her. And so, quite rightly, like her sense of obligation, her sense of, I guess, duty is to a ghost, to a memory of someone. And well, how does that function? It doesn't. It doesn't work. And so, quite rightly, she is wrong. And it's really interesting in the official pod. They talk about how really she knows that she's in the wrong here. Like
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And what
Because she tries to
is doing,
justify it by saying, like, oh, well, Tommy would want me to do this. Like, Tommy's
Yeah.
fine. He can handle his own. And not only that, but he would want me to do this. And, like, would he? Ellie, like, I think game Tommy, we could argue, yes, probably.
Mhm.
Show Tommy, I think, is a little different. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I think regardless of whether or not that's true, that's not why she's saying it. She's saying it because she's going to justify any reason to go after Abby, because in her mind, the job isn't finished yet. Like, there are still people out there who hurt Joel, namely Abby, that I need to take care of. And in her mind, Tommy will be fine. She's the horse with the blinders on. Like, she sees
Mhm.
nothing else besides Abby.
Yeah, she's an addict to violence, and this is her relapsing big time, and she's doing what all addicts do when they are confronted with the truth, is they find ways to justify their actions, to kind of find excuses, and doing so really well, because there's some logic to what she's saying. It's not entirely false what she's saying. It's just not the most compelling truth that's available at the moment. Like, Tommy does want revenge, and Tommy is capable, but does it make more sense to go and help him and to reunite and then get the F out of here for your own safety, for your own
Or
mental well-being?
even,
Absolutely.
like, save Tommy and then go get Abby at the aquarium.
Well, yeah,
Like,
there's that as well.
I'm just saying, like, she's viewing it as it's one or the other, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. If you want to split off from the group after and go after Abby, like, I'm sure they're not going to agree with you, but you could still do that. Yeah. And then Jesse revealing that he voted no. I was like, whoa. Then what other person voted yes? Like, I'm like, who some rando on this panel, this council voted yes, I guess.
Well, that throws everything up into the air, because we were very much like, well, Jesse, Tommy, and Maria were the three yeses that we thought. Does that throw into like speculation as to whether or not Tommy or Maria maybe have thrown their votes as well? And maybe it's others.
I very
that
much
want the same
questioned
thing?
that. Yeah, when we got the 3 votes, I was like, I want to know who voted what, because I wasn't positive. I think in the after the episode, or maybe in the podcast, they mentioned something about Maria was a yes, which I think was solidified when Tommy and Jesse came after Dina and Ellie. I felt like that was a little bit more like, okay, we could kind of say yes, she probably did. But I loved Jesse's explanation for why he voted no. And he says, everything you do for you, which is like, I mean, he's right. And that's the thing. That's what I love about this, is that we can both love Ellie and Jesse and point out when they're wrong, and like point out that maybe they're both wrong, but it doesn't really matter, because they have such different philosophies on how to move forward and what community means. I loved this fight. Young Mazzino, put him in more. Like, he is
phenomenal.
Because I've waxed poetically about Bella Ramsey and how incredible they are. And so in my mind, when you're Young Mazzino and you're going toe to toe with Bella Ramsey in a scene, like, you better be able to hold your own, because they're incredible. But holy crap, Young Mazzino, like, give him more, please. He was so good in these scenes.
Yeah, completely held zone. It was phenomenal.
No, I'm not from here. I'm not a wolf. Tobin.
We then get to a section that you in our notes have put, war, what is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again. Yeah, I can't help it.
we get the prep going on. We get the closest thing to a montage that we're going to get here. We get a shot of Dina kind of watching the entrance, kind of nervously waiting for people. We get Isaac shaving, preparing for the war, and all of the kind of prep that's like getting involved with this whole situation. An ominous shot of the Ferris wheel and Ellie approaching in the rain and seeing off into the distance, knowing full well that there's no way in which she's going to be able to swim it, sees a boat, she goes to approach it, and then we get the real scale of what is going on here. We see the WLF in many, many boats. That scene when all the lights came on for them, I thought was terrifying because I was like, imagine you're there. You like imagine if Eddie had been there 2 minutes before, was in that boat, and then all of a sudden, like it would have been over, like no question about that. And again, it's another thing of underestimating how severe this situation is and how naive Ellie is. I thought this was great.
It was so good. It reminds me of, actually, kind of funnily enough, it reminds me of the Seraphites and how when they surround someone, they're in the forest, and then all of a sudden you see the torchlights coming up.
Mhm.
Very similar, where it's like you think it's just one boat, and then you see the lights for the other boats, and it's aided by the fact that there is a lightning storm. It's pouring down rain. It is dark. It is creepy and gloomy, and they're on the coast. It's just, like we talked a lot about like the scene setting and the scene with Ellie and Jesse, but like this is HBO budget, baby. Like this was so beautiful. The way they utilized the lightning to just light up things at certain times, light up the coastline of Seattle, the Ferris wheel, which we didn't mention. Obviously, it's Nora said to Ellie, wheel and whale. And that's was the clue that she needed to realize, well, it was the aquarium that Nora was referencing. This is gorgeous and terrifying. And Ellie this is just goes to show how hungry and dedicated and determined Ellie is. That she's like, well, I kind of barely know how to swim, but I guess I'll take this boat out into this awful lightning storm that you definitely shouldn't be out on the water in. And like, who cares if I hit a wave? I'll be okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful skyline, and the vibes were immaculate.
Yeah, absolutely captured everything that what this felt like when you're in the game. Like, even to the point when we were watching it, I was making jokes about, well, this is where Ellie takes time to fumble with the controls and work out how the boat works.
I mean, she did end up in the water. She did end up in the water. And if there's one scene that I would cut from the finale, it's probably the scene that follows this, where she is captured by Seraphites, hung up, about to be disemboweled, when the Seraphites village starts to get attacked by the WLF, and they have to run off. I'll talk way more about it in the spoiler section.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a dicey one to kind of navigate, but it's doable because it's. I think I'm in agreement with you. As we were watching, I said, "Oh, this is going to be divisive when it airs," because I feel like for many people this won't hit, and won't seem necessary. I think long term it perhaps will be, but we'll certainly get into that. But on the official pod, they revealed, and I think also in the Inside the Episode video, they revealed that this actually was originally in the game, because this is something that is invented new for TV, but it was originally in there, but they cut it out. So it was kind of one of those ambitions that they have, is to kind of, well, let's include some original ideas that we were thinking about and include those. And equally, it also goes to show the othering of everything, and the brutality of, I guess, extremism to an extent. Obviously, showing like a kid that's been indoctrinated into this war, and the othering of people other than the Seraphites, to show how brutal it is. I thought that was really good. But again, I agree, I think, with your take, is that perhaps not here.
It's kind of unnecessary. Like the only thing that I would say makes it more worthwhile to do this scene is to show Ellie's determination in that she can get knocked off a boat, nearly hung to death, and still will not stop in her pursuit of Abby because she just gets back on that boat, goes right back to the aquarium. So, like, sure, I feel like we could have done the same thing if she just got like knocked off the boat and then got back in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I needed more convincing that she's really determined to get Abby. So it is what it is. We'll talk about it more in the spoiler section. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think just for a few things. I mean, I get really defensive of the show when I feel like it gets undue criticism for sudden leaps of faith when it comes to like watching TV shows. Like, you don't ever say, "Oh, I've never seen them like go for a shit," therefore like it's so unrealistic. Like all of those really weird things. This did stretch a little bit of believability for me into the fact that like Ellie tumbles out of the boat and then just happens to, just get back on the boat and the boat works fine. That for me, I was just like, ooh, that was a bit. I don't think they really thought that through too much.
And is the boat that she gets on after the Seraphite situation, is that her boat? Like, it just happened to get to shore? Like, whose boat is this? Because do the Seraphites use motorboats? Like, they're kind of Amish, so I wouldn't imagine they would.
Yeah, it doesn't seem their vibe at all. So I'm like, okay, well, if it's not theirs, then it must be the original one that Ellie took, and it just happened to survive that fine. Like, there was something about it that just didn't quite work for me.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I feel like it could have just done with a bit more of a way of blending it in a bit more, like a reason for Ellie to stop there or to be like washed there or something like that. And that was a bit more just beyond capsizing, dealing with it, and then jumping back in. It's too convenient, I think, for many people.
You have 5 seconds. 4.
She's gonna kill us either way.
No, I won't. Because I'm not like you. 3. 2.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll show you.
Slowly.
Slowly.
We move on from it though. Ellie finds the aquarium, and in a great nod to the games, finds a yellow crate, which is in the typical what we call Naughty Dog yellow, which is oftentimes in the video game a little marker for like where to follow or where to head towards, and climbs, introducing some verticality, which the game 2 does so well, and then climbs in through the window to find and seemingly abandoned aquarium that shows signs of habitation here and there. There's some bedrolls out, I think, like little camp beds as well. Some nasty looking scenes on an operating table as well. A lot of questions to be asked there. And then we get to the confrontation. I had my heart in my throat this whole thing. I was so anxious for everything that was going on. Were you much the same, Jess, or was it were you just
I was really curious to see how this would play out. Owen and Mel are just arguing. Basically, Owen wants to go behind enemy lines on some sort of a suicide mission to help Abby. Mel is putting her foot down, saying enough is enough. Like, just because it's Abby doesn't mean we have to follow her into freaking hell. Like, enough. And Ellie overhears all of this and holds them at gunpoint. And she says, I know you know where Abby is. You were just talking about her. I see those maps. And so she wants to do Joel's map trick. Both of you point to a spot on the map. If it doesn't match, you're both dead. And she wants Mel to be the one to bring her the map. Owen says, I'll do it. And of course, he reaches for a gun instead of the map. Ellie shoots him, and in the same shot, clips Mel in the neck, which is when Mel reveals that she is pregnant and asks Ellie to cut the baby out of her because she is significantly pregnant. I mean, like, I don't know, like close to the to the point where if she were in a hospital and had the baby, it probably would survive because she is far enough along. But
Yeah.
she's not in a hospital. She's on the floor in an aquarium with Ellie, who is not a doctor and doesn't know what to do. And though Mel has medical training, which we know about, she is also bleeding out and not giving like clear instruction. And Ellie certainly is like not sure what she's supposed to do. And wow, Stuart, they made us sit in that. They made us like it's in the game it's a little different. This part of Mel asking Ellie to cut the baby out does not exist. She dies, and that is when Ellie realizes that Mel is pregnant or was pregnant. They were like, we gonna take it and amp it up to 15 to make you
Yeah.
sit in the brutality. It was so painful to watch.
Yeah, I when watching, I was incredibly nervous about this. To know that they were drawing out Mel's death because in the game it's like a stab to the neck, the reveal, and then Ellie's horrified. This just dialed it up so much, and I was like, "Oh gosh, no, we're not having a House of the Dragon moment where we're gonna like gratuitously have some awful violence for the sake of it." And I was like, no, I feel like, yeah, this was horrible, and really tough, but I think it was necessary because we've been going on and on about how Ellie is doing a little bit better mentally than what we had anticipated at this point. Like in the game, particularly after Nora, Ellie is struggling, and we're seeing it in this episode. But we've been saying that in the season up until now, it's like we'd like to see a bit more of this. This is like a bolt of lightning of just wake up, see what you have done, see how lost you are, see how like in over your head you are. Everything just all came to a head with this. It was so horrible. I remember
Yeah.
watching it and just thinking, Christ, this is really long as well. On a rewatch, it didn't feel as long. But in the moment, I was there, just like, oh Lord, because you
Yeah.
feel every single emotion that they go through. You feel how lost Ellie is. You feel that sense of like, I guess, like motherly duty and obligation that Mel has of like, even though her life is
Yeah.
over, she's trying to give instructions of like how to continue her baby's life. It was so horrible.
Yeah, especially because, like, obviously in the game it's very different. Ellie intentionally kills both of them. Like, she slits Mel's throat with a knife. Like, this is not an accidental graze of a bullet. She does do it, and it's only after when she realizes that Mel was pregnant that she has like such a visceral reaction. If I liked the change that they made in that it is that much harder for Ellie to reckon with what she's done, especially if they're going to make Mel's death accidental. I think you had to add in Mel, asking Ellie to cut the baby out.
Mhm.
I guess Ellie, up until now, has been able to say to herself, all of these deaths were justified because they killed Joel and they deserved it. You reap what you sow. This is my revenge. This baby had nothing to do with the war going on between
Mhm.
Joel and the WLF slash Salt Lake City crew. This baby was innocent. And of course, there's also the parallels between Dina is pregnant as well. Like, so it is something that felt necessary in order to break Ellie, to get her to a
Yeah.
point where she is completely torn up about this and has to reckon with what she's done. And yeah, then come Tommy and Jesse to take Ellie back to the theater. This was great. This scene was really incredible. Hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of Mel and Owen in maybe flashback form. Obviously, we'll talk about the Abbey of it all. But
Mhm.
it was so brutal. I was like you, Stuart. I'm like, please God, let's not do a House of the Dragon sort of a thing. Like, I've had enough of like traumatic giving birth scenes on television for a good long while. But it was really effective. Ellie looked just torn up about it, as
Yeah.
she should.
Yeah, I think it speaks to that everyone that's been encountered, they have their own complexity to them. They have their own histories, their own stories, their own choices that have led them to a path that put them in direct like kind of conflict with Ellie, and so everything has been justified to the point. Like it's either been in self-defense or it's in pursuit of association with Abby. And so this to truly get an innocent life, a birth that could probably survive under the right conditions. To have that shock to Ellie is fundamentally necessary. And we've been talking about Bella Ramsey and just the impeccable performance all episode, but this was just stunning. Like the way in which she goes from being a person in authority to holding these two like at gunpoint and really scaring the heck out of them to flipping to being a scared child who doesn't know what to do with a knife and a belly. It's like crikey. And I love the fact that she was just frozen in shock and of an action because of her own like the horrors that she's kind of committed. Yeah, you can't argue with what's happened. You can't argue. You can't say that like, oh, Ellie suddenly changed her mind. No, she's had like a profound, shocking event that has snapped her out of it. And I thought that as tough as it was, I think it was actually a good addition. I think it was perhaps not a necessary one, but a good way of dialing it up a bit.
Yeah. I think okay, because if I'm gonna compare, I had a lot of critiques about House of the Dragon back in the day with season 1. And so
Mhm.
I will say that like that felt like graphic for graphic's sake sometimes. Like they would just are trying to like hype everything up and heighten everything to this like extreme. Whereas this felt like they didn't overdo it just for the shock value. It felt like no, it was kind of necessary to have that to get Ellie to the point of breaking down about it. So I liked that because sometimes I do feel like HBO is like, what can we do to shock people just for
Yeah,
fun? And this didn't feel like that. As much as I
yeah,
hated
and
watching that.
yeah,
you know.
because the House of the Dragon stuff, like back in the day, like a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's world building. It's establishing like the brutal nature of this world and like how there's not that great medicine and how this is a common occurrence." Yeah, we don't need to see it though, and I think
Yeah.
this is like a nice thing that we had in this scene is that like, we got the horror of the situation. We didn't see any actual brutality when it came to the child, the belly. Like we just saw the
Exactly.
emotional ramifications and wrecking of the kind of like morality of it at play, and I think that's where it's fundamentally different. And again,
Agree.
I think not unintentional. I see a lot of the choices that the showrunners are making. Everything is with intent. I don't think anything is just gratuitous for the sake of it. Is
Mhm.
it included because they know it's going to get a reaction? Yes, but I
Yeah.
think it also comes with a number of other kind of benefits and caveats
Mhm.
and things like that.
He killed my friends.
No, I did. I was looking for you. I didn't mean to hurt them. I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. I'm the one that you want. Just let him go.
I let you live. I let you live. And you wasted it.
Blimey. We then, like you said, Tommy and Jesse turn up, rescue, and we head back to the theater. Ellie, still in a state of shock, kind of re-enters. Dina's kind of still resting, but we get Tommy and Jesse planning the route home, seemingly taking the decision that okay, we're leaving. This is done. And Ellie resignedly agrees, and it'll have to be enough that Abby gets to live. There is a peace that comes to it, not a welcome one. there's still resistance, but an agreement is made, and seemingly we are through the worst of it. I don't think we are. As we hear a tussle, and yeah, some bad
Yeah.
stuff goes down.
The final scene with Jesse is also just so like, we obviously have been building to it. They did a really great send off for the character of Jesse for young Mazzino on the show, where Ellie thanks Jesse for coming back to save her. And Jesse's like, well, what if I only did it because Tommy told me to? And she's like, did you? He's like, no.
Mhm.
Because not only is he a good person, but if he was in trouble, Ellie would, and I quote, set the world on fire to save him. And Ellie agrees that she would. And yeah, they hear a noise, they run, and just like in the video game, it is just as quick, just as jarring. As soon as they open those doors, Jesse is shot in the face and killed, and Ellie dives
quick.
behind the bar. It is like you get whiplash. Like, it is so sudden and brutal. The imagery, the way they shot it, the angles, like, all very similar to the video game.
Very, very.
And it's heartbreaking. Like, I feel like I'm very curious for people who haven't played the video game, if you could tell Jesse was gonna die this episode or soon. I feel like they telegraphed it, kind of. Like, there's literally a scene when he's with Ellie and he's like, I can't die either. I'm gonna be a dad. Like, I think they made it a bit obvious. It still hurts, and I would argue, Stuart, it hurts even more in the show because they've made Jesse into a much more well-rounded character. Like, he's so much more, there's so much more story time dedicated to the character of Jesse.
Yeah.
And it hurts even that much more, beyond the fact that I won't get to see his arms on my screen every week anymore. Like, it's heartbreaking to see Jesse die here.
Yeah, it truly is. And like, to give young Mazzino the props, like he's been a delight this season. Has brought so much depth to a character who is so beloved from the video game. But that's not only from his work; it's also from the writers' work, in the sense that, like, they have fleshed out Jesse, and I feel like he's a proper, well-rounded character with such a depth. I feel like we've got his history. I feel like we've got, like, a sense of really who he is and what he would have been. And it's so sad to see him go, but necessary, because a cost is required for everything that has happened. And that cost is taken by the return of Abby, who turns up, holds Tommy to gunpoint after killing Jesse, and quite rightly realizes that it's Ellie and says that you wasted it. Okay. First off, there are many doubts with Kate Leaver's casting when taking on the role of Abby, because obviously physically there is a big difference.
Where are her muscly arms, Stuart?
Yeah, Abby in the games is like quite like muscular.
She's built.
Is kind of like not as jacked, and is certainly not as tall either. But I tell you, in the delivery of that line, I was like, nailed it. She's fearsome. Like, I was like, Christ. I was like, this is the soldier that was being talked about earlier. This is why, like, Abby is so kind of like sought after by Isaac. Is that, like, this is the vengeance, the violence, the kind of aggression that we wanted to see. But also layered amongst that is the pain of knowing full well that, like, her friends have been killed, and that she's aware of it, and that she's on her own hunt for revenge that Ellie's just been on. This was phenomenal. The delivery, like, there was certain like, there was a one line, I'm forgetting what it was at the moment, but I was like, that sounds like Laura Bailey as well. The voices were just so incredibly similar. I was so hot on this. I was like, this is phenomenal, and really got me so excited for season 3 and for Abby and what's to come.
Yeah, it's the standoff you want to see. where we're made aware that Abby is aware that her friends are dead. She thinks Tommy's responsible. Ellie says, no, it was me. Kill me. Please let them go. Ellie thinks, I've already, like, gosh, now Jesse's death is my fault. Dina's baby's not going to have a father, thanks to me. The least I could do is take responsibility. Hopefully, Abby will let Tommy and Dina live, and I could just die, and that will be enough. I love the delivery of when Ellie comes out and Abby just goes, you. Like, I just love it. It's again, this scene, shot for shot, word for word, like dialogue, it feels like pulled exactly from the video game. I love the I let you live and you wasted it. Like, it's so perfect. They might as well be looking in a mirror. Like, it is just everything. And I know there are people who don't like that we quote unquote end on a cliffhanger here, right? Where Abby fires a shot seemingly at Ellie, and we're cut to black. Then we'll talk about the next scene that's going to happen. But like, this is the last big action-y scene. I know people don't like it. I would argue that, like, it's literally the way it is in the video game, and like, it's meant to be jarring. It is meant to, like, kind of make you take a step back and, like, rock on your heels a little bit. That's kind of the intention. I don't see it as I'll talk about this more in the spoiler section. I don't see it as, like, it's not meant to make you be like, wait a minute, is Abby gonna die? Like, no, or Ellie gonna die? All that stuff. That's not what it's meant for. It is meant to be like this, like, flash, bang, boom, and now we cut over, and it's like, now we hit the reset button, and we're starting back with Abby. It's exactly how it is in the video game, and it's intentionally that way, Stuart, because in the video game, this happens. We cut to Abby, Seattle Day 1, and you are Abby. You are playing as Abby. You are controlling the character of Abby, and it is supposed to make you angry because Abby literally just killed Jesse, a character that we cared about in the video game, we adore in the show. Like, it is you were supposed to feel that way. You were supposed to resent the fact that you now have to inhabit the body of someone who killed a character you love, and possibly has killed other characters that you love, and you just don't know it yet because you're 3 days earlier. Like, that is entirely the point. Now, I don't know. I've rambled long enough, Stuart. What, like, I just, part of me is like, people don't have the patience for television anymore because the video game, you can just continue on, right? Like, you can just continue playing. Unfortunately, that's not how TV works. We have to now sit and wait 2 years. And it's just going to have to be okay. You know, like, you're just going to have to be okay with that because, you know, I could argue that this season should have been longer, and I would argue that. Like, I would argue I could have used at least 8 episodes, if not like a little more, or made some of these episodes a little longer. I think we could have used that as well. I don't agree with we could have made this into, like, taken seasons 2 and 3 and made it one long season. I do think would have had to make it like 15 episodes or something to make that work. Like, I understand, you know, we'll talk a little bit more in the spoiler section about some of this stuff, but like, I guess I'm just frustrated, Stuart, because I feel like people don't have the patience for TV. And as an impatient person, I've, like, come to understand that, like, the way things were when we were kids on TV, where you could get season after season after season, like, year after year after year, you didn't have to wait very long. This is a high caliber, like, big budget, practically movie. Every episode is a movie sort of television. This is HBO, baby. You know, this isn't TV, it's HBO. Like, I just think we have to give them a little bit more. If you want a good product, you're just going to have to wait a little bit, and that's going to have to be okay.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement, and I'm gonna be quite harsh, and I don't mean this as a criticism. Like, if you found this jarring, please don't think that I'm saying this about everyone. But I do think that there is a portion of people who just have zero media literacy and are spoiled by Netflix and spoiled by Marvel. in the sense of like the binge model of TV is I don't like it. I think that it robs everyone of a chance to digest and to really absorb the themes, the plots, the reasonings, and the theorization. Theorization of TV is one of my favorite things to do. It's why Lost was so phenomenal when it first came out.
Mhm.
Because everyone was like, holy crap, we're going to talk about this. And like, it was the real water cooler moment. And yeah, okay, that's kind of been lost a little bit, what with like the change in culture and things at the moment. But the fact that everyone is so spoiled in expecting everything to come all at once and to have everything kind of neatly wrapped up and tied off. When you know that you've got season 3 on the way, yeah, play with the expectations of being able to like set things up for the long term. Like play with that, and I think the audience should be mature enough to realize what they're doing and to buy into it and say, okay, well, answers will come there. I just have to be patient. Like you say, I have to be mature and kind of exercise that. The problem is that Marvel have ruined it with the Avengers
Ugh,
and in
yeah.
filming 2 blockbuster films in one and having a short release cycle between them, so the wait doesn't feel as long, and therefore that time frame seems a bit more justified. It's just not viable for every
Yeah.
medium. That's a real edge case, and unfortunately, it's set a precedent for people to make that expectation. And I feel that as well, like alongside that, and not only like the expectation of schedule, I think people's literacy when it comes to what storytellers are trying to do. Like everyone is so conditioned to have a 3-act structure and they expect a resolution at the end. And I'm like, they're playing with that. They're playing with your expectations. Everything about this show has been setting you up to expect one thing and for it to be like sideswiped. Joel's death came in episode 2 for crying out loud. Like, this is not a show that is going to conform to a simple 3-act structure. Why are you expecting it to be? Why are you
Mhm.
surprised when a like a reveal is coming on? Why are you surprised when things are being kind of teased in that are going to come later? Things are being told out of order. That's been shown by the structure of like the flashbacks. Why is this shocking to people and why is it
I think
outrageous? I find this to be the most baffling takes.
I think part of it is because this isn't to say that some of the changes that have been made to the way that television is produced and released are, not everything that every television show does is good. What I would argue is that this isn't Squid Game, where they did season 2 of Squid Game, but they might as well have called it Squid Game season 2 part 1 or part A.
Mhm.
Like, we this to me at least felt like season 2 did have a full story. And we knew going in that part 2 of the video game was going to be shown over multiple seasons. Like, there's just no way they could have, with the way the story structure is. It's a bigger game, it's a longer game, it's a more complicated game. Like, it deserves 2 seasons to flesh out that story. So to me it felt like a season with a full story. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
there's more to it and we're going to get to more to it, but it didn't feel like it didn't have a satisfying overall arc, So I think there's a difference between being critical of a show like this and something like Squid Game, where it's like you're just doing it to make money. Like, it's not, this isn't the Hunger Games, Harry Potter, like, let's take one book and make
Yeah.
3 movies out of it. Like, this isn't the Hobbit. Like, that's not what we're doing here. It is simply we knew we were going to have to cut the game into at least 2 parts. This was a natural stopping point for season 2 to end on. I think to view it as like, oh, every show is doing this now. It's like people are so critical of, like, we used to have 20 something episodes a season and like 5 of those 20 something were filler. Like, if you're gonna say, well, there's too many episodes. Okay, well, now they've shortened it. They've made every episode count and you're still not satisfied. Like, I just feel like people don't have the patience for television like this anymore. And it makes me a little sad because I want, especially when someone like, when we have people like Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin who like care so much about the product.
Yeah.
Like, they are trying to make it the best it possibly can be. And I feel like there are some people who just aren't giving them as much of the benefit of the doubt as they should. And obviously everyone is entitled to their opinion. This is just like us coming from the perspective of we've played the game, we know where the story is going. This is such a natural stopping point. I don't understand the argument for it could have been one season, or why are we cliffhangering? Like, we'll talk about it. I personally feel like they could wrap it up in 3 seasons. I would be a little irritated if we're stretching it to 4, which may be what happens.
It's happening.
So
It's gonna, I think it's gonna happen. Yeah.
I get it, because I'm not, I'm like, okay, if we did 10 episodes or 8 episodes for 2 and 3, whatever. That's a whole different argument. I liked this. And then we got something, Stuart, that I don't think either one of us was expecting to get.
I thought it was going to be cut to black, go to credits, but no, we actually got the stadium. We got Abby waking up. Great little Easter egg is that the book that Abby is reading is it's a slight different take on the one that she's reading in the games. It's in the games she's reading City of Thieves by David Benioff, I believe the writer of one of the showrunners of Game of Thrones, which is a novel that inspired The Last of Us that Neil Druckmann read before kind of creating everything. This one is Thieves of the City by Ben Davidoff or something, I think it is. They've like switched out the names.
Oh, that's fun.
The
That's
title
fun.
and
Yes.
the author. But yeah, great little Easter egg there. And then we get the stunning reveal of that view of the stadium and the extent to the WLF and how big of an army this and settlement this is. Wild. This was such a treat.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe we got this, Stuart, namely because it is such a huge like set piece. I remember playing the game, waking up as Abby and being like, holy shit. Like, they have the Seahawks stadium set up as like a home base. I was thrilled because I was like, this is so smart. Like, this is so smart of them to do. Like, I was tickled. I thought it was so cool. And I thought, there's no way we get this in season 2. I was like, this is a season 3 thing. But it is, I can't get over how much I love this as a choice they made, because, we'll talk about more in the spoiler section, but certainly seems like they're setting up that, okay, now we're going back to day 1 and we're going to experience what Abby experienced. So they're kind of setting up for the viewers who maybe haven't played the game that, hey, get ready for a Abby heavy season 3, which I think is a very smart choice, because if we ended on that last scene, fade to black, does Ellie get shot, and then we come back in season 3 and it's the Abby show, viewers are pissed, and they probably still will be. They probably still are.
Oh, they will be, yeah.
But at the very least, you're like level setting those expectations. And on top of that, giving us a kick-ass set of like the Seahawks stadium. Like, holy shit, it's so cool. I couldn't believe we got this, and I was so thrilled about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there about kind of like the necessity to include this now to try and alleviate those complaints. They still will happen. I think that based on what we've said, like, people are going to react the way they react. People are looking, I think, particularly with a quite a high status show such as this, they're looking to tear it down at this point. I mean, the 2-season slump, it's about that time to like, oh, it's jumped the shark. It's that kind of thing. But this was so phenomenal. And the fact that like they tease you with world building, like, I don't know anyone that doesn't look at that stadium and go, Christ, I want to know everything about it. Like, I want to see.
I wanted to explore the whole thing when I played it. Like, it's you see cattle. Like, what the heck is going on here? This is a whole ass civilization in a freaking football stadium. Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, a phenomenal way to end what has been, I think, on the whole, a really strong season of television. It's had its troughs. It's certainly had its points where I've questioned some decisions. But like I said earlier, like, just let them cook and see what they serve you up, because what they've served up thus far has been brilliant. And I'm so glad of it. I'm never not awed by the fact that a game that I love so much has been transferred into another medium in such an impeccable way by the people that made it as well, being involved into such a high degree. I think that we are truly spoilt as fans of this kind of this franchise, and so I can't wait for season 3. This has just got me so much more excited, and I can only imagine the level of excitement I'm going to have as we wait for season 3. It is in pre-production. Maybe the wait might be a bit shorter. Certainly, fingers crossed there are no strikes on the horizon to delay things any further, because that's another thing we have to contend with between season 1 and 2 is there were strikes that did delay things a bit better as well. So yeah, maybe we might get lucky. Maybe it will come a little bit sooner. Certainly, I will say, as a fan of the Yellow Jackets, certainly nice to have confirmation mid-season that we're going to get season 3 and not several weeks, months after.
When I tell you the amount of anxiety I had about whether or not we were going to get another season of Yellow Jackets, be happy that we have a confirmed season 3 of The Last of Us, okay, people? Because those couple of weeks were very scary for us Yellow Jackets fans. Yeah.
Suggest any other things you want to say about this episode, this season, before we jump into the spoilers?
No, I only want to talk spoilers now.
Well, thank you for anyone that is ducking out now. We are going to jump into the spoiler section. We only have the games to go on. We don't have any trailers or any other speculation aside from that. But if you are kind of leaving, thank you for listening. It's been great to have people listening along to this, particularly for the longer pods. It's been really gratifying to know that people have joined us on this journey, and for the most part, I've agreed with a lot of what we've got to say and found it kind of quite useful. Of course, if you're not subscribed and you want to be aware of when our coverage of season 3 will come up, please do make sure you're subscribed. We're on all the socials at Look for Light Pod. And you can also email in any feedback and questions to us at lookforlightpodcast@gmail.com. But if you do not want to know spoilers, now's your time to leave, because spoilers from here on out. Jess, we can finally do it. We can talk as freely as we want about absolutely everything. Where do you want to start?
First, I need to start with something that I noticed in the final scene between Ellie and Abby, and it is that Abby has ligature marks on her neck, which was something we were like, oh my God, are they replacing the Abby gets hanged scene with the Ellie gets hanged scene? It's like, no, Abby still gets hanged, which means that we're gonna get the Levin Yara scene that I was very concerned would be cut. I'm so excited. I don't, this makes me sound like a sicko. I don't want to see someone else get hanged. I just feel like that introduction to the characters of Levin Yara is so important. I would have been devastated to lose it. And now we get not confirmation that we're getting it, but like between that and the surgical room, we gonna get it.
Yeah, we're getting it. But this is the thing. A huge concern is that as strong as that scene is, I mean, it was the trailer for the game originally. It was I think it was the second trailer that they had revealed, and it was obviously, until you heard the clickers, you didn't even know it was The Last of Us, because you didn't know who the Seraphites were, you didn't know who Abby was. A lot of people back then were theorizing that this was going to be like a prequel flashback, and that it was going to be Ellie's mum. I remember the early days of that kind of coming out. So yeah, we have to have it. But the concern was obviously is that we might get Lev, but we might not get Yara. Yara is potentially a cuttable character, certainly cuttable when it comes to arms. But when
monster.
But when I saw the surgical table, I was giddy. I was like, oh my gosh, we're definitely getting that then, because otherwise, I mean, they could brush it under the rug. They could leave something unexplained.
Yeah, but
the odds of it are so unlikely because everything's so intentional.
Exactly. Everything is intentional. The amount of time that we're spending going through that surgical room and the effort to give Abby those neck marks, it just gave me peace and that I won't have to worry for next season, because Lev and Yara are such important characters. They humanize Abby in a way that is necessary for the audience to buy into this character. And if you're playing the game, it is necessary to be like, I don't want to just throw myself off the nearest cliff as this character, you know, like throw myself off the sky bridge that we see in the distance. Ah!
We were so worried because we didn't see them in the skylines before, but of course it makes sense because there's not going to be that many sky bridges. And from a distance, this is a great thing as well, is that it just looks like a fallen crane. It looked so well hidden and was only there if you knew to look for it, which we do, but the WLF don't. I was so excited.
I'm so relieved. I'm so excited. I've said this before in our spoiler sections. Lev is one of my absolute favorite characters. I cannot wait for Lev and Yara to be introduced. Like Lev and Abby, it's like it's just like the perfect pairing, and I love it so much, and I just can't wait. So all of these little Easter eggs in this episode of like what's to come and setting up, level setting that like, okay, viewers, we're going to go back in time now. We're going to now be playing as Abby. This is something that I was like, whoa, okay, they're doing it. Because, Stuart, this is a massive risk. And obviously, we don't know what they're doing for season 3 yet. It's so far off. But, like, if they're doing what the video game did, or at least somewhat like what the video game did, and we're starting with Abby Seattle day 1, we're going to be away from the character of Ellie, certainly away from the character of Joel. It's a massive risk to take when you have an established show with an established cast and being like, you know, that character that you pretty much kind of hate? Like, do you remember the character that killed your favorite? We're going to follow her around for a bit. It's very jarring in the video game. I'm sure it's going to be jarring on the show. I would hope that they're going to like stick true to it and just let the haters hate, because I'm thrilled to see this. Caitlin Davis has more than proven herself that she is capable of carrying the weight of the show on her back as Abby. Like, let her shine. Let her have her moment, you know? Oh, I'm so excited. I hope that you know, this is so stupid, Stuart. I can't. I just hope that the creators and the actors don't get hate for this decision, because, you know, it's like my little heart. I don't want them to get hate for a decision that I think is like a good decision and the right move. And I know there's going to be people who don't think that. All I want is good things for them.
And it lends itself to the conversation we were saying about like kind of people's I guess tolerance for things that they don't enjoy or necessarily agree with. It's like, well, just okay, you can not enjoy something. You don't have to actively hate something. Like, you can switch things off and just not partake in them and accept that things aren't necessarily to your liking. You don't have to go on an active like hate campaign just because, like, to show how much you don't like something. Like, that doesn't do anything. It's like rage baiting. It's like people get engagement from it. Stop it. But yeah,
I'm laughing because my husband has like had some big qualms with this whole season, and he's been very ragey about it, but he did really love the finale. So we got him.
Maybe
we got him,
folks.
I
don't know. Oh gosh. To go back though, like to the hanging situation. To go back to the scene with Ellie and stuff. This is what I was getting at earlier. Is that this is why I think that they felt that this is necessary, is to show the parallel between these two characters, to show that both of them have experienced this, and have miraculously kind of survived a very similar situation. To kind of again like just show that similarity between the two of them. I also particularly loved a very subtle Easter egg, and I'm not too sure whether it was entirely intentional or not, is that shot as Ellie is being washed up on the beach of the boat. Like, that is so reminiscent of the opening kind of loading screen, and obviously the final scene that we get towards the end of the game after the fight with Abby and Ellie, of just them going off in the boat that way. Tell me that wasn't like intentional. Also, like again, another nod to potentially the Abby scene in Catalina Island, like of that shot when the game finishes and you get the different loading screen. Again, so much intentionality with a lot of the choices that are going on here, and that just fills me with utter joy to see, because these things get noticed, by like people that are eagle-eyed for them, and they fill us with joy.
Yeah, I think this season has done a really great job at both being handholdy at times for the show only people and also giving video game players little Easter eggs and hints of things to come that aren't super overt. I think they've done a really great job at weaving that. I know this isn't everyone's favorite season. A lot of people are going to be banging the drum of like season 1 was better. And like, sure, maybe. But the story isn't over yet. And I feel like given the complexity of how the story is told in the video game in part 2, they've done a really admirable job at, structuring the story in a way that will work to play out over 2 seasons, maybe 3 if we get another season. If we get 4 seasons, I'm going to be I'm like, we can do it in 1 more if you just give us like 8 episodes, but I don't know if that's realistic. We'll see. I'm not going to go too far down that path because we don't know yet. And why argue about something that is like so unknown right now?
Oh, so much to look forward to, but it is just going to be a bit of a wait, sadly.
Yeah. Good things come to those who wait. That's what they say.
Exactly. And wait we shall. Of course, we're probably going to go dark on this channel for a while. There's not too much to cover. We may pop back up when some more news hits. I certainly think we'll have big things to say when a trailer hits in the hopefully not too distant future. But yeah, unless there's anything else, should we wrap things up as we always do, Jess, with a bit of Will Livingston?
Let's do it.
How did Ellie know that something was wrong in that operating room?
I don't know how.
It smelled a little fishy. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.